Anthony stood outside his car dealership, narrowing his eyes at the large blue and silver sign above him. 6 locations bearing his name, a legacy passed down from his father, yet he hadn't visited this specific store in more than a year. Feedback from his district manager was varied. While sales remained consistent, there was a notable increase in customer complaints. A sense of unease lingered in the air. He fine-tuned his disguise in the reflection of a parked car's side mirror. A bushy beard, spectacles, and a faded baseball cap obscured his defined features. He donned a weathered denim jacket over a worn t-shirt, presenting a stark contrast to the refined CEO typically clad in tailored suits. He had never actually encountered the majority of the staff in this place. With 6 locations, he depended on managers to ensure everything operated seamlessly. Perhaps that choice was unwise. With a steadying inhale, he crossed the threshold. The vibrant showroom was infused with the rich scents of fresh leather and brewing coffee, accompanied by the familiar buzz of sales conversations echoing throughout. His strategy was straightforward. Act as a customer, pay attention, take notes, and uncover the true situation. A man in his early 30s, tall and with slicked-back hair, approached him wearing a wide smile. Derek's name tag was clearly visible. "Hello. Are you in the market for a new vehicle today?" Derek's tone came across as excessively warm, reminiscent of a practiced sales presentation. "Just browsing," Anthony remarked, maintaining a laid-back tone, contemplating a truck. Something dependable. Derek's smile grew broader. "Ah, you've arrived at just the right spot, my friend. There are some fantastic offers available. Indeed, this one right here," he pointed to a gleaming black pickup, "boasts a brand new engine just installed last week, and it runs like a dream." Anthony felt a knot in his stomach. He recognized this truck all too well. It had not received a new engine. He clearly recalled the last maintenance report indicating that this truck had been idle on the lot for months, receiving only a basic oil change. He maintained a calm demeanor. "A new engine, is it? That's a significant enhancement." Indeed, Derek acknowledged with assurance. "The previous owner removed it, so we installed a new one. The price may be a bit elevated, but believe me, it's truly worth every penny." Anthony's jaw clenched. This wasn't just bending the truth. It was an outright falsehood. Marketing a pre-owned vehicle with misleading information could lead to significant legal consequences. Just as he was about to reply, a woman's voice interrupted from behind him. "Derek, that doesn't seem correct." Anthony glanced over to find a young woman wearing a dealership polo, her face marked by tension. Her name tag displayed the name Lisa. Derek cast her a fierce look. "Keep your distance from this, Lisa." She crossed her arms. "I'm simply stating that the engine remains unchanged. We only performed a few minor tune-ups, and that's all there is to it." "You can't reveal that to the customers," Derek chuckled sharply. "Lisa, perhaps you could take a moment to attend to some paperwork or a related task. I've got this under control." Lisa paused, her lips forming a tight line. She glanced at Anthony, then turned her gaze to Derek, before sighing and walking away. Anthony let out a slow breath, frustration brewing beneath the surface. He had to gather more information before risking exposure. With a hint of feigned curiosity, he inquired, "What sort of warranty comes with this truck?" Derek maintained his rhythm effortlessly. Complete protection for an entire year, with no additional charges for parts and labor." Yet another falsehood. The dealership's policy provided coverage for just 30 days, and even that was subject to certain conditions. Anthony let out a reluctant laugh. "That seems like an excellent offer." Derek gave him a hearty clap on the shoulder. "That's exactly my point. Let's bring you in and begin the necessary paperwork." Before trailing after him, Anthony surveyed the showroom with a keen eye. Lisa sat at the reception desk, her fingers flying over the keyboard, her head shaking in disbelief. An older gentleman with graying hair engaged in conversation with a customer, exuding a relaxed and friendly demeanor. A manager, distinguished by his uniquely colored blazer, sat in his office, absorbed in his phone. Anthony's thoughts surged like a whirlwind. If Derek could deceive so effortlessly, how many other patrons had he duped? Why was the manager not paying attention? He trailed behind Derek into a cramped office. A framed picture of a sports car adorned the wall, while a stack of contracts rested on the desk. Derek seized a pen with purpose. He tapped the paper and said, "If we can get this signed today, I might be able to reduce the price by a couple hundred, but only if you make a commitment right now." Anthony reclined in his chair. "And if I require a moment to reflect?" Derek's smile wavered. "Here's the situation. We have other interested buyers for this truck. If you hesitate, I can't promise it will remain available." Another manipulation tactic. Anthony crossed his arms. "I'll take my chances." Derek let out a sharp breath, his irritation evident. "Listen, I'm working hard to secure the best offer for you. You definitely don't want to let this opportunity slip away." Anthony allowed the silence to linger. Then he rose to his feet. "I believe I've observed sufficient evidence." Derek scowled. "Could you clarify what you mean?" Anthony took off his cap, set aside his glasses, and ran his fingers through his hair. Derek's complexion drained of color. "I own this dealership," Anthony declared, his voice unwavering yet resolute. "I just caught you misleading a customer on several occasions." Derek gulped, his assurance evaporating in a heartbeat. Anthony glanced at the doorway, requesting the manager to come in. In that moment, Derek's complexion faded, the realization hitting him as Anthony loomed before him, his true self now glaringly evident. The assurance he had radiated just moments before dissipated, giving way to a palpable rigidity. His fingers twitched slightly, as if searching for a way out, but Anthony wasn't about to grant him that opportunity. Anthony shifted his gaze to the doorway, meeting the eyes of the manager, a robust man in his 40s, seated behind his desk. The man had been absorbed in his phone, completely unaware of the trickery unfolding just a few feet from him. Now, sensing that something was amiss, he sat up straight in his chair. Anthony's voice cut through the air, yet as he spoke to him, it echoed in my office. The manager paused, shifting his gaze between Derek and Anthony, before rising swiftly and guiding them toward the glass-walled office that overlooked the showroom. Derek trailed behind, his steps uncertain. Upon their entrance, Anthony firmly closed the door behind them. The manager finally spoke, his tone measured and careful. "Your visit today caught me by surprise, Mr. Collins." Anthony observed him intently for a moment. "I didn't anticipate finding myself in this situation, yet there was an instinct that something was amiss, and now it's clear I was correct." He motioned in Derek's direction. "He deceived me right to my face. He claimed a used truck had a brand new engine when it clearly didn't, and then he pressured me to sign a deal based on misleading information." The manager's forehead creased in concern. "That is simply not acceptable. Derek, what is your response to this situation?" Derek took a deep breath. "Honestly, it's merely a sales pitch. Clients anticipate a touch of flair. This is our method for finalizing agreements." Anthony's expression grew steely. "That doesn't sound like a sales pitch. That constitutes deception." Derek's mouth parted, then closed once more. He squirmed in his seat, a palpable tension radiating from him. Anthony faced the manager. "How frequently does this occur?" The lengthy. That revealed all the information Anthony required. The manager cleared his throat. "I have confidence in my team's ability to manage customer interactions with professionalism. Should any errors have occurred, I will take the necessary steps to rectify them." Anthony squinted, his gaze sharp and focused. "Errors? This was not an error. It was a calculated falsehood. Based on your response, it seems this isn't a new experience for you." The manager let out a breath through his nostrils. "I won't claim that every deal here has been flawless, but we take the necessary steps to achieve our goals." Anthony's jaw clenched. "This isn't the way. Not in my name." Derek moved once more. "Listen, I'm simply aiming to earn a livelihood. Do you believe that clients don't try to negotiate us down, squander our time, and leave after extensive discussions? We have targets to meet. If we don't succeed, we're done for." Anthony inclined his body ever so slightly. "Do you believe that makes lying acceptable?" Derek remained silent, yet his expressions conveyed everything that needed to be said. Anthony faced the manager once more. What prompts this dealership to resort to misleading tactics to achieve its targets? Have you been promoting this? The manager's lips formed a tight, straight line. I wouldn't describe my approach as encouraging, yet I also refrain from micromanaging my sales team. They understand the expectations. Anthony felt a knot in his stomach. That was merely a more refined way of indicating he turned a blind eye to the situation as it unfolded. He let out a long, measured breath. This goes beyond Derek. It's a matter of guidance or the absence thereof. If this is the way things operate in this business, then I have not succeeded as an owner by allowing it to unfold this way. A brief shadow of discomfort passed over the manager's expression. Anthony had more to say. Today I encountered something different, Lisa. She attempted to halt the deception before it spiraled out of control, but Derek dismissed her efforts. She was aware that this was incorrect, and judging by her response, it seems she had encountered this situation previously. Silence enveloped the two men. Anthony's eyes were fixed intently on the manager. What prevented her from taking the right action? The manager let out a weary sigh, his fingers pressing against his temple. Lisa stands out in comparison to the rest of the team. She possesses strong instincts, yet she sometimes struggles to grasp the intricacies of the business. Anthony's jaw tightened. Her insight surpasses yours if she stands alone in resisting deceitful sales strategies. Derek let out a quiet scoff, but Anthony remained unfazed. The stillness in the office deepened. At last, Anthony broke the silence once more, his tone decisive. This ends now. Truth reigns supreme. Enough with the pressure tactics. When a vehicle encounters problems, we make them known. If a warranty is limited to just 1 month, we make that clear. If a salesperson is unable to meet their quotas with integrity, they are not suited for this environment. Derek's jaw clenched, yet he refrained from voicing any objections. Anthony faced the manager once more. I must ascertain whether you can manage the store effectively. If you cannot, I will seek out someone who can. The manager let out a deep breath, nodding with deliberation. I understand you. Anthony felt a sense of discontent. That falls short. Please ensure that I have an action plan on my desk by tomorrow, including a comprehensive review of sales practices, customer complaints, and employee feedback. I need Lisa in my office by the end of the day. The manager offered another nod, this time with a hint of hesitation. Got it. Anthony glanced over at Derek. At this moment, you are on hold. I'm uncertain whether you'll find a spot for yourself here following this. Derek's expression grew steely, yet he remained silent. He just stood there for a moment before turning and leaving in silence. Anthony observed him leave, then redirected his attention to the manager. Correct this, or I shall take action. He departed the office without awaiting a reply and headed straight for Lisa, who remained at the reception desk. She glanced upward, her demeanor wary. He paused before her. Join me on this journey. After a brief pause, she stood up from her chair and trailed behind him to a different office. As he propped the door ajar for her, he noticed the hesitation reflected in her gaze. Unbeknownst to her, this meeting was on the brink of transforming her entire reality. Lisa trailed behind Anthony into the office, her footsteps cautious yet resolute. The tension from earlier still lingered in her expression, yet now there was an added layer, perhaps curiosity, or even a glimmer of hope. With the door gently shut, she took a seat opposite him, her hands neatly folded in her lap. Anthony rested against the desk, observing her intently for a moment. She was the sole voice raised, the lone individual daring to question what had evidently turned into the norm at this dealership. That held significance. He spoke directly without any introduction. What's the duration of your time spent in this place of employment? Lisa adjusted her posture with a subtle movement. Nearly a year, he acknowledged with a nod. How frequently have you encountered sales strategies similar to those employed by Derek? She paused, weighing her words before responding thoughtfully. Countless times. That validated what Anthony had already believed. Had this been a singular occurrence, her reaction would have been different. He crossed his arms. And the supervisor. What is his true level of knowledge? Lisa let out a slow breath. That's sufficient. He refrains from explicitly instructing them to deceive, yet he also remains silent in their moments of untruth. He simply desires the figures to appear impressive. Anthony's jaw clenched. That was consistent with what the manager had mentioned previously. He refrained from micromanaging, which essentially meant he chose to overlook certain matters. Lisa paused once more, then continued, "There have been instances when customers returned in a rage, upon the moment of realization that they had been deceived. Some considered escalating the issue, yet the manager consistently managed to defuse the situation, providing minor discounts or complimentary service appointments. That was far more dreadful than Anthony had anticipated. It wasn't merely a matter of momentary deceit. It was a system that deliberately concealed its actions, silencing complaints rather than addressing the fundamental issues." He let out a quick breath. "What prompted you to voice your thoughts today?" Lisa blinked, her expression revealing a hint of astonishment at the unexpected question. It was wrong, plain, and straightforward. Anthony observed her intently for a prolonged moment. Few workers would have dared to intervene in such a manner, especially if job security was a concern. Yet she possessed those qualities, signifying her integrity and courage. He drew out the chair opposite her and settled into it. "Your presence is essential here. We need individuals who genuinely care about our business practices." Lisa's eyes opened a fraction wider. "What do you mean?" Anthony inclined his body, eager and attentive. "I am implementing modifications. This operation has reached its limit, but I cannot rectify it by myself. I'm looking for trustworthy employees, individuals who refuse to turn a blind eye." Lisa leaned back, pondering his words. After a brief pause, she articulated her thoughts with caution. "I wish to assist, yet I'm uncertain if the others will adapt. A number of them have been practicing this method for years." Anthony gave a slight nod. That was a legitimate worry. Individuals who had constructed their professional lives on falsehoods wouldn't relinquish that foundation in an instant. He let out a breath. "Next, we identify those who resist change and we substitute them." Lisa's eyes widened once more, yet her expression was not one of shock, but rather contemplation. Anthony pressed on. "What alterations would you consider making in this situation?" She paused, then stated, "To begin with, I would ensure that customers truly grasp what they are purchasing. There are no aggressive strategies or deceptive guarantees here." That was an excellent beginning. "What more is there?" She cast a fleeting look at the glass wall, her eyes darting toward the showroom. "There are wonderful individuals present. Individuals striving to pursue the correct path yet feeling as though their options are limited." Anthony had not taken into account that some employees might be dissatisfied with the current situation, yet they had complied out of necessity. Lisa glanced over her shoulder at him. "For this place to transform, it's essential that they understand there are no repercussions for choosing the right path." Anthony gave a slow nod. That was a significant lapse in his leadership. If workers were afraid that being truthful could lead to job loss, it was clear that the culture had already deteriorated. He rose to his feet. "I am determined to transform this dealership into a source of pride once more, and I invite you to join me in this endeavor." Lisa paused for a moment, then sat up straight in her chair. "How can I assist you today?" Anthony cast a quick look at the door. "For the time being, continue with your actions from today, and voice your concerns when something isn't right. If anyone attempts to coerce you into keeping quiet, you come directly to me." Lisa nodded, her expression resolute. Anthony approached the door and swung it open. As she exited, she cast a quick look over her shoulder before vanishing into the showroom. He let out a breath, raking his fingers through his hair. This would not be a simple task, yet it was essential. He emerged from the office, his gaze sweeping across the dealership floor. The manager lingered by the reception desk, feigning interest in his tablet. Yet Anthony sensed the keen gaze directed at him. "Fine, let him observe." Anthony strode past him in silence, making his way toward the employees who were still engaged on the floor. A few caught sight of him, a flicker of recognition lighting up their expressions. Others averted their gaze, uncertain of what lay ahead. He wasn't planning to let anyone go today, but he intended to convey that changes were on the horizon, regardless of their preferences. And the initial step was ensuring that everyone grasped a crucial point. Deceptive sales strategies were no longer acceptable in this business environment. Anthony found himself at the heart of the dealership, the significance of the moment pressing down on him. The staff navigated around him, some feigning busyness, while others shot wary looks his way. The atmosphere had transformed. A palpable uncertainty lingered in the air. They all sensed a shift in the air, yet none could fathom the depths to which it would lead. He had to seize the reins at this moment. He strode confidently into the heart of the showroom, ensuring that his presence was undeniable. He spoke with a calm yet commanding presence that compelled everyone to pause their activities. All eyes were drawn to him. The chatter abruptly ceased. A handful of employees shared silent looks, yet not a word was uttered. He paused briefly before proceeding. He scanned the room, a hint of curiosity in his voice as he addressed the audience. I know some of you are wondering why I'm here. At this point, I trust that many of you have realized I didn't come here merely to watch. I arrived here due to my worries regarding the management of this dealership. Today, those concerns were validated. A handful of individuals fidgeted in their seats, yet silence prevailed. He stated with utmost clarity what would unfold next. His tone was firm, yet it conveyed certainty without any hint of menace. The current practices, the coercive strategies, the deceptive sales approaches, and the lack of integrity must come to an end starting today. The stillness enveloped the space. Some employees averted their gaze, while others scrutinized him intently, attempting to assess the depth of his seriousness. Anthony pressed on, his tone unwavering. I understand that not everyone functions in that manner. I understand that many of you may have felt as though you were left with no options. That transformation begins immediately. Truth prevails. Customers will no longer be misled into agreements they cannot comprehend. If you can't engage in genuine sales, you won't find success here at all. He didn't anticipate any applause. He didn't anticipate an instant consensus. What he anticipated and what he observed was a blend of responses. Some employees appeared to breathe a sigh of relief, while others wore expressions of doubt. A handful, such as Derek, lingering on the periphery, appeared ready to dispute yet understood the futility of their intentions. Anthony had no desire to engage in a debate. He glanced at the manager, who had been observing silently throughout the whole ordeal. Anthony requested a comprehensive review of all deals that have been finalized in the last 6 months. If any of those situations involved misleading actions, we are committed to rectifying it with the customer. This entails processing refunds, conducting repairs, or addressing any other required actions. The manager tensed a bit but gave a nod. Anthony had more to say. He glanced at the entire team once more and mentioned that a new training program would be introduced. A focus on ethical sales practices is essential. All employees will experience it. Should anyone decline, they will be released. A soft chorus of whispers floated among the gathering. Anthony allowed them to absorb the gravity of the situation before he pressed on. Some of you may consider this to be over the top, he stated, his demeanor steady yet resolute. Some of you may believe this will complicate achieving your targets. However, I want to emphasize that this dealership will stand out for its commitment to honesty and integrity, neither for taking shortcuts nor for deceiving clients. If that requires us to endure a temporary setback to restore trust, then so be it. He pivoted gently, ensuring he connected with various employees through eye contact as he communicated. This business was established alongside my father. This bears my name, and I will not allow it to be managed in such a manner. A deeper silence enveloped the space, more profound than the last. From the corner of the room, Lisa made her way forward. I believe this is the correct decision, she stated, her tone unwavering even amidst the palpable tension surrounding them. Individuals ought to have the freedom to purchase a vehicle without the concern of being deceived. By approaching this correctly, we can earn the trust of our customers. Anthony noticed a handful of employees nodding in agreement, It wasn't a unanimous response, but it sufficed for the moment. He then redirected his attention to the manager. You have the responsibility of implementing these changes, but rest assured, I will be observing closely. Should I encounter any pushback or learn of anything being overlooked, our discussion will take a markedly different turn. The manager's jaw clenched, yet he gave another nod. Anthony let out a slow breath. He had expressed everything that required expression, and now the ball was in their court. Return to your tasks, he instructed, and execute it properly. The employees gradually scattered, some murmuring quietly to one another, while others made their way back to their workstations. The atmosphere in the room had transformed once more. It was no longer merely uncertainty, but rather a palpable sense of impending change. Lisa paused briefly, locking eyes with him before giving a subtle nod. He handed it back just as she pivoted and strode off. Anthony understood that this was just the beginning. There would be pushback, some employees might depart, others would resist, but that was acceptable for this. This is merely the start. Anthony stayed on the dealership floor for the remainder of the afternoon, observing and absorbing everything around him. The change was faint, yet undeniably present. Several employees approached with caution, stealing glances at him to assess his response before engaging with customers. Some continued with their lives, adhering to their familiar patterns as if nothing had shifted. He observed Lisa intently, taking note of her interactions with prospective buyers. She allowed them the time they needed. She responded to questions straightforwardly, without any unnecessary details. When a couple asked about a sedan on the lot, she accessed the service history rather than urging them to sign. It was the manner in which everything ought to have been executed from the very beginning. As the afternoon waned, Anthony made his way back to the manager's office. The man had withdrawn to that place following the morning's clash, undoubtedly seeking to comprehend the abrupt turmoil. As Anthony entered the room, the manager adjusted his posture in the chair, placing his tablet down with purpose. Anthony closed the door behind him. Have you begun going over the deals I requested? The manager let out a breath, reclining a bit. I possess. It will require some time to sift through all the details, but I've already come across a handful of dubious contracts. Anthony crossed his arms. Provide a definition for something that raises doubts or is open to challenge. The manager paused for a moment, then retrieved a folder from his desk. He opened it with a flourish and pointed to the initial document. This one, he remarked, tapping the page. A customer was informed they were purchasing a certified pre-owned vehicle. However, the inspection had not been conducted prior to the sale. Anthony's jaw clenched. They invested additional funds for a certification that turned out to be non-existent. The manager acknowledged with a nod. Anthony turned the page to the next document. Yet another concern. A warranty that was misrepresented, much like the attempt Derek had made with him. On to the next. A financing arrangement where the interest rate was changed at the 11th hour, ensnaring the buyer in a situation far costlier than what had been assured. He shut the folder, releasing a breath through his nostrils. The manager paused, pondering. How many more of these do you think we'll uncover? If I were to speculate, I would say many. Anthony maintained a calm and even tone. Next, we address each and every one. Reach out to the impacted clients. Provide refunds or complimentary services, whatever is necessary to ensure satisfaction. The manager scowled. That will come at a price. Anthony's eyes remained steadfast. The price of inaction is far greater. The manager massaged his temple, choosing silence over confrontation. Anthony inclined his body ever so slightly. I have a question that needs answering. Are you genuinely open to change? Or are you merely complying with this because I'm pushing you into it? The manager remained quiet for an extended pause. At last, he let out a deep sigh. I'm being honest with you, he said. This dealership has functioned in this manner for years, not only during my tenure but even prior to my arrival. It's deeply embedded. I can't guarantee an impeccable transformation in a single night. Anthony gave a slow, deliberate nod. I don't anticipate immediate results. I anticipate dedication. The manager locked eyes with him. In that case, you'll understand. Anthony regarded him for a moment before reaching for the folder. Excellent. Continue to push through these. I would like to receive updates every day. The manager gave a confirming nod, and Anthony pivoted to exit. Upon returning to the showroom floor, he noticed Derek by the exit, engaged in a quiet conversation with another salesperson. Derek stood rigidly, his face a mask of strain. Upon catching sight of Anthony's gaze, he swiftly closed his mouth and made his way to the door. Anthony trailed behind him as they stepped outside. Derek paused by his car, hesitating as Anthony drew near. Derek remarked, "I take it you're not here to offer me any good luck." Anthony was not inclined to engage in any playful antics. "What do you have in mind?" Derek gave a nonchalant shrug. "I have choices. Some dealerships that embrace bold sales strategies." Anthony felt no shock. Derek exhaled sharply, revealing his preference to walk away rather than embrace change. "I understand your intentions, but there's an error in your approach. Clients aren't seeking transparency. They desire the sensation of securing a bargain, even if it's merely a mirage." Anthony's expression was a mask of inscrutability, and that was how one rationalized deceit. Derek inclined his head just a fraction. "That's just the way things operate," Anthony said, shaking his head. "No, that's the way poor business operates," Derek breathed out sharply. "Honestly, I could stick around, feign transformation, and endure your training. Yet, deep down, we understand that my words would lack sincerity, and you would merely be anticipating my next mistake." Anthony made no attempt to refute it. Derek cast a quick look over his shoulder at the dealership. "I will ensure my departure by the close of the day." Anthony observed Derek as he entered his car and drove away. He felt a sense of satisfaction. He had anticipated this. Some individuals remain steadfast, regardless of circumstances, and that was perfectly acceptable. The dealership would thrive without his presence. As he stepped back inside, he caught sight of Lisa by the reception desk, observing the exchange. She refrained from inquiring about what had transpired. There was no necessity for her to do so. Instead, she merely cast him a glance that conveyed, "What's next?" Anthony locked eyes with her. They have now created something superior.